You used to care about your birthday, the cake, the messages, the feeling that just for one day you mattered. But somewhere along the way, that changed. Now it's just another day. No plans, no expectations. You wake up, check your phone, silence. And instead of being sad, you just don't feel anything. You tell yourself you've outgrown it, that it's childish to care. But deep down, a small part of you still wonders, when did I stop feeling like my life was worth celebrating? Because the truth is, you didn't stop caring about your birthday. You just stopped believing anyone else would. It didn't happen all at once. You didn't wake up one year and decide birthdays were pointless. It happened slowly, one disappointment at a time. Maybe a friend forgot. Maybe someone promised they'd show up but didn't. Or maybe, deep down, you just realized that no one really sees you anymore. So you built a wall, told yourself it doesn't matter. You say things like, I don't really celebrate, or it's just another day. But that's not strength, that's defense. That's what people do when they've learned that caring hurts. The truth is, we stop celebrating ourselves the moment the world stops celebrating us. We learn to stay quiet about our birthdays, not because we've grown wiser, but because we've grown tired. You're not cold. You're just protecting yourself from the silence that comes when you expect too much. It's strange, isn't it? How the older you get, the less you seem to feel. Not just about birthdays, but about almost everything. Things that used to make you happy now feel muted. You see people posting photos, smiling, surrounded by friends, and you tell yourself it's fake, but deep down, you wish it was you. You wish you could still care that much. This emptiness didn't come from nowhere. It's what happens when life keeps teaching you the same lesson. That effort isn't always rewarded. That love isn't always returned. That sometimes no one notices how much you're holding yourself together. So you stop expecting anything. You convince yourself that feeling nothing is better than feeling disappointed. And slowly, the highs disappear with the lows. You stop chasing excitement. You stop looking forward to things. Even good news feels distant, like it's happening to someone else. And your birthday becomes a quiet reminder of everything that didn't change. The dreams you buried, the people you lost, the versions of you that never made it. You start telling yourself, I don't need anyone. But that's never been true, has it? You just learned that needing people means getting hurt. So you pretend you don't. And somewhere between pretending and surviving, you forget what it feels like to actually live. You probably think you've become distant because you stopped caring about people. But the truth is simpler and a lot sadder. You didn't stop caring. You just stopped feeling safe. Somewhere along the way, connection started to feel like danger. Every time you opened up, you got hurt. Every time you trusted, someone used it. And every time you got your hopes up, they gave you another reason to lower them. So your brain learned a new trick. It started protecting you. It convinced you that closeness was optional, that solitude was maturity. It told you were happier alone, even when you weren't. It made you allergic to vulnerability, that small, trembling space where love could actually exist. That's what emotional detachment really is. Not peace, not wisdom, not focusing on yourself. It's a scar. It's the body remembering what it felt like to be disappointed and saying, never again. You started mistaking distance for strength, because being cold is easier than being broken. Because if no one gets close, no one can leave. And if you expect nothing, at least you can't be let down. But that kind of safety costs something. It costs connection. It costs warmth. It costs the little pieces of joy that make life feel human. The laughter that isn't planned. The text that actually surprises you. The comfort of being seen, not for what you do, but for who you are. That's the irony, isn't it? You push people away to protect yourself, then you lie awake wondering why nobody ever stays. It's not that people don't like you. It's that they can feel that wall you've built. They sense the withdrawal, the hesitation, the silence behind your smile. They can't get close, not because they don't want to, but because you won't let them. And the worst part? You don't even realize you're doing it. Because detachment doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like the only way to survive. So you keep pretending you're okay. You keep telling yourself you don't need anyone. You convince yourself that independence is peace. But deep down, all you've really done is trade connection for control. And control doesn't heal you. It just keeps you from bleeding in front of anyone else. You say you want love, but when it gets close, something in you pulls away. You stop replying. You get distant. You find tiny reasons to back off. You say they're too much, or it's bad timing, or you're just not ready. But that's not the truth, is it? The truth is, love feels dangerous now. Because deep down, you don't trust that anyone will actually stay. You've been there before, giving your best to someone who made you feel like it was too much. You tried to be open, honest, loyal, and they left anyway. And that kind of rejection doesn't just hurt. It rewires you. So now, even when someone means well, you flinch. You start scanning for red flags before they even do anything wrong. You overthink every message. You second-guess every compliment. Because somewhere deep inside, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for the moment they realize you're not worth the effort. That's the real reason you push love away. Not because you don't want it, but because you don't believe it's real when it finally shows up. And that disbelief ruins everything. You start sabotaging the very thing you crave. You hold back your affection so you won't get attached. You act indifferent, hoping they'll prove they care enough to stay. You test people's patience to see if they'll pass. And when they don't, you say, "See? I knew it. But what if the problem isn't them? What if it's the part of you that refuses to believe you can be loved without earning it? That part that only feels safe when you're slightly alone, because being loved feels unfamiliar, almost suspicious. You've learned to mistake love for danger, and every time someone gets close enough to care, you shut down. Not because they did something wrong, but because your nervous system remembers what heartbreak felt like. And that memory, it controls you more than you think. It whispers, "Don't fall for this." You know how it ends, so you back away, quietly, subtly. You tell yourself it's better this way, better to leave before they do. But here's the truth, no one tells you. You're not protecting yourself anymore. You're punishing yourself for someone else's mistake. You think you're being smart. You think you're being realistic. But really, you're still living in that old pain. Still making every new connection pay for what the last one did. And love can't survive that. No one can hold you if you won't stop bracing for impact. At first, not expecting love feels like relief. No more waiting for texts that never come. No more building people up in your mind just to watch them fade. You tell yourself you've matured, that you've let go of all that childish hope. You start calling it peace. You convince yourself you're finally free. You even start to enjoy the quiet. There's no anxiety in solitude, no heartbreak in isolation. You get used to waking up and not checking your phone, You stop scanning faces for recognition, for warmth, for proof you matter. But freedom turns into emptiness faster than you think. Because when you stop expecting love, you also stop seeing it when it's there. A friend tries to check in. You brush it off. Someone pays you a compliment. You assume they don't mean it. You start filtering everything through disbelief. And little by little, life starts to feel smaller. Days shrink into routines, conversations into logistics. You go to work, come home, distract yourself, sleep. No drama, no heartbreak, but no pulse either. It's a kind of safety that slowly erases you. When you stop expecting love, you forget how to receive it. And when you forget how to receive it, you begin to believe you never deserved it. You build a life that looks stable from the outside, quiet, ordered, efficient. But there's a kind of hunger underneath that nothing fills. It's the hunger for connection you've convinced yourself you don't need. The world starts to blur. People become noise. Moments that should have mattered pass by unnoticed because feeling joy now feels risky. You start mistaking numbness for control. You think you've conquered your emotions, but really, they've just given up trying to reach you. And when your birthday comes, you don't feel sad. You just feel blank. You go through the motions, maybe smile when someone remembers, but inside, there's that quiet voice saying, "This isn't peace. This is surrender." That's what happens when you stop expecting love. You don't protect yourself. You erase yourself. And the worst part, you get so used to the emptiness that you start calling it normal. You tell yourself you don't need anyone. You say you like being alone. You've learned to eat dinner in silence, walk home in silence, scroll through life without expecting anyone to check in. And for a while, it works. You convince yourself that solitude is strength, that wanting people makes you weak. But every now and then, something breaks through the armor. A random song hits you harder than it should. You see two people laughing, and for a split second, you feel that ache. That small, cruel reminder that part of you still wants to belong to someone. You try to ignore it. You bury yourself in distractions, in productivity, in little routines that keep you from thinking too much. But loneliness has a strange way of creeping in. Not loud, not obvious, just a dull pulse that won't fade. It's there in the quiet moments between tasks. It's there when you turn off the lights and the world goes still. That ache isn't weakness. It's proof that you're still human. No matter how much you tell yourself you're fine alone, the truth is, you were never designed to go through life untouched. Every time someone genuinely smiles at you, you feel it, even if you pretend not to. Every small act of care hits something buried deep, like tapping on the walls of a locked room and hearing the echo from the inside. And that echo? It's your heart, reminding you it's still there, still wanting to be known, still hoping, quietly, for someone who won't walk away halfway through the story. You don't crave attention, you crave understanding, you crave the feeling of being safe enough to stop performing. The kind of connection that doesn't demand you be impressive, just real. That's why, no matter how much you isolate, you always end up missing people. Not the noise of them, the presence, not the chaos, the quiet comfort. Because even when you convince yourself you've stopped needing anyone, your soul still remembers what it felt like to be seen without earning it. You can mute it for a while. You can bury it under logic and self-discipline and fake peace. But deep down, you don't want to be untouched by life. You just want to be held by something that won't hurt you. And that's not weakness. That's the most human thing about you. You've spent so long downplaying your existence that you've forgotten what it feels like to appreciate it. You stopped waiting for people to celebrate you. But somewhere along the way, you also stopped celebrating yourself. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy of growing up. We stop treating our lives like they're worth recognizing. We save our energy for other people, other deadlines, other distractions. We make room for everyone's story but our own. But here's something you probably haven't heard in a while. You don't need a crowd to be worth remembering. You don't need a room full of people to validate your life. You don't need permission to feel proud that you're still here. Because the truth is, you've survived every version of yourself that swore you wouldn't. Every heartbreak, every silence, every year that felt like it might break you. And yet, here you are, breathing, existing, still trying. That's what your birthday is really about. Not balloons or candles or noise. It's the one quiet reminder that you've made it through another cycle of chaos and disappointment and still found a way to keep moving. You don't have to throw a party. You don't have to post anything. You don't even have to smile. Just take a second to look at your life, the small, stubborn miracle of it, and understand that it's worth noticing. Because no one else can celebrate your existence the way you can. They can remember you, admire you, miss you, but they can't feel your story the way you've lived it. So celebrate that, not the version of you people see, the one you had to build to survive, but the one that kept going when no one was watching, the one that made it through nights you never talk about, the one that didn't give up, even when you secretly wanted to. You don't need a party. You just need a pause. A small, defiant moment where you say to yourself, I made it another year. I'm still here because that's not nothing, that's everything.